Welcome back to the Automation Podcast, the world's #1 industrial automation product and technology show. Thanks to you, our audience of highly skilled automation professionals. Thank you for being a member of our audience, and thank you for tuning back in this week. And in this week's show, I actually sit down with two members of ISA Tampa to talk about their big automation expo, which is coming up. They've invited me also to present at the expo. Before I get to that, I got a couple of announcements. First, I wanted to let you all know that I have a big sale going on over at theautomationschool.com. You can save up to 20% off our courses and bundles. And if you're an existing student, you just email me for an upgrade coupon and you get the sale, plus you get to buy it, the bundle or upgrade at the difference in price from what you've already bought. It's a huge savings, and I want to thank all the students who've already reached out to me to get those upgrade bundle coupons. So with that said, I also am having a Compact Logics training course right here in my office, June 9th through the 11th. This is a great training course. I've designed it so it's self-paced, right? I do lectures and presentations. I share my knowledge and experience, but you can do the labs at your own pace. And so if you're somebody who needs to take extra care and do things slowly and methodically, you can. And if you're someone who's really fast and likes to go through labs really fast, I know I used to do that when I would go up to Rockwell's training. I have hundreds of pages of lab books. I have all kinds of extra equipment. I even have software factory simulators, so you will not run out of something to do in those 3 days. But the special pricing ends in about 2.5 weeks. So if you want to come to this 3-day class on Compact Logics, please check out theautomationschool.com and sign up soon so you can get that special sale price of $150 off. It's only $13.49. You will leave here with a copy of the lab book, and you will leave here with a registration and the online course as well at no additional charge. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into this week's episode of the Automation Podcast and hear from Mike and Phil about this upcoming Automation Expo event. Mike and Philip, thank you for joining the Automation Podcast to talk about the Florida Automation Expo coming up in just, well, a couple of weeks, maybe even just a week when this finally airs. And I'm looking forward to being there, as well as all your special guests and all your vendors. But before we jump into talking about what this expo is all about, that's, May 21st, Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. Let's learn a little bit about both of you. So I'll start with Mike. Tell us about your position and what you do, how you get involved with the ISA, and kind of what's going on down there in Tampa. And then we'll have Philip tell us as well.
I'm Mike Stout. I work for McKim-McCreed. I'm a vice president there and in charge of their electrical and instrumentation group. I've been on the ISA local Tampa Bay board for 12 or 13 years, I think. Started off as the program chair. The board was wasn't doing a lot of stuff, and so a bunch of us got together and really kind of wanted to kind of increase the activity, so I was involved in that, and then got involved in the expo. We'll talk about I think the history of that in a little bit, but started out relatively small, and then when it got bigger, we decided, Phil and I and three other people decided that probably needed to have a kind of a small steering committee to make it easier just to make decisions. And so I was on that board and have been on that board ever since. Really happy to be on your podcast here and talk about this show. It's a great show.
Excellent, excellent. Philip, if you don't mind, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been doing down there in Tampa?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for inviting us, Sean. Glad you're a part of this. So I'm the vice president of automation at Electro Design Engineering. We're an electrical contractor / system integrator in Tampa, Florida. And I really attribute where I am in my career a lot to the ISA. I started off as an electrician years ago, and I really started to fall in love with motor controls and instrumentation. I discovered the ISA and their CCST program, a Certified Control System Technician. So I got that certification. I had a customer at Pepsi that invited me to an ISA, what turned out to be a board meeting. And I got voluntold to become the Facebook chair for the ISA section. And I really liked the group. Mike Stout was there in that first meeting I went to, along with a number of the original members at the time. And really, it was a great dynamic. People that love automation, people that love helping other people in the community. So the following year, I ended up being voluntold to be the president of the section. And that would be 2020, which is when COVID broke out. So a lot of our stuff slowed down. We shifted to webinars and things. But then in 2022, we decided that the local community was ready, and we put together a slightly bigger expo than what we had previously before that, and then kind of brought us to where we are now.
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys both coming on. We have had, several of the presidents and past presidents of ISA nationally on the show to talk about different things that are going on, cybersecurity and the cybersecurity summits. And, it's great to hear from a local chapter like you guys down in Tampa because, I've had people come out to me and say, Sean, how do I know what's going on in the wider, general area? Like I'm covering national vendors, but people want to know, hey, what's going on in, let's say, Florida or Texas or Oklahoma? And so I think the ISA is a great way if you got a chapter near you. It's a great way to get involved and meet people locally, right? And I know a lot of people, they find encouragement, they find career paths, they get help with those type of things, and also training and other things. And so that's one of the things. I live in a little podunk town in the middle of nowhere, but I've talked many times with the folks over in Albany, New York. Some of the same companies in Albany are also in Tampa. So you'll see some of those same companies on the flyer that you showed us a little while ago. But in any case, I just want to encourage, and I'm not paid or sponsored by ISA. So, I'm volunteering this podcast just like these guys are volunteering for the local chapter. But I do wanted to jump into this event and have you guys tell us a little bit about the history of it. Who wants to go first?
Mike, do you want to tell what it was up until when we got where we were? Maybe some of
Sure.
the tabletop stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. So, like I said, back 12, 13 years ago, we were trying to increase activity in the chapter, and we started doing monthly events. Some of them were just tours of local factories. Some of them were more technical presentations and stuff, and came up with the idea of doing kind of a tabletop thing. And the first one was at a hotel. We had, I think, 12 vendors there. We didn't even charge the vendors for a table. What we told them was, look, we want to serve food, so bring some food, bring something to drink, and so they came in, and I think we had maybe 40 people there, and it was just, I don't know, a couple hours in an evening one week, and it kind of went over pretty well. And then the next year we did it again, but we did it at a different hotel, just a little bit bigger. And then I think we did one more at the same hotel again, and then that's when COVID hit, and so we took a couple years off. And when we came back, honestly, Phil is the one that got involved, and so
you want me to speak to that?
Yeah. Well, we had it at the Yankees spring training stadium here in Tampa, and they have a nice little space there, and we had enough room for them. And Phil did such a great job of convincing everybody that as a vendor that you needed to get a table. And we oversold the thing, and we ended up having to split the show into two different pieces within that same stadium, which worked out okay. And Phil, I'll let you explain what we did in a second.
Yeah.
So anyway, we did it the second year, we did it there as well, but really, really outgrew that venue. The venue was fantastic. The people were fantastic, but we outgrew the venue. And then we looked around, and we've always wanted to do the expo at kind of a cool venue, someplace that's a little bit unique. And we landed on Raymond James Stadium and the East Club. And so we take over the entire East Club, and we put logos up on the Jumbotrons. And I mean, that's a cool place to have any event, and kind of turn it into our expo. And it's really turned out fantastic. Phil, I'll let you kind of explain what you did the first year. And then if you want to kind of roll into our trip to Orlando and then coming back, that would be good.
Yeah. So the first year, we're coming out of COVID, we're trying to get an event together, and I get to go to Automation Fair, I get to go to these different events, so I get to appreciate that. But most of the local people, the plant personnel, the maintenance guys, they don't get a chance to see any of that. So I wanted to bring that to Tampa. So I emailed every vendor I knew or ever came in contact with, and I gave them the list of every vendor I knew and said, all these people are thinking about being at our expo. Was a little smoke and mirrors, and at first the reply was, "Are they really?" And we started getting a handful signed up. I said, "Yep, these ones are already confirmed. The rest are still thinking about it." And within the span of a few months, we had about 40 vendors sign up for our first year, and these are large vendors. Rockwell,
Yeah.
the local Rockwell distributor, Siemens distributor. as well as some of our local distribution firms and local system integrators. So it was a nice mix. And we had about 400 people show up at that first year. That's including vendors and attendees. But the first year of this larger expo, we had 400 people through the door, which really built a lot of momentum, because the ones that didn't sign up that year, they were watching. They wanted to see what the crowd was like, and it was a full house. So the next year we got to around 600 people and 50 vendors. As Mike had mentioned, we stayed at the George Steinbrenner Field, which is a Yankee spring training, but it was very disjointed because they have we had like 3 different event spaces we were at. So we went to Raymond James. We were able to get it all in one location.
Nice.
We did that. We had around 800 people show up, which was a phenomenal crowd. It really felt like a family reunion for the industry, because you'd have these
Nice.
people that worked for a factory or for a distributor
Mhm.
for 5 or 6 years. They leave, they go somewhere else, and
Yeah.
then they don't see their old friends for years. So they all get together there, and it's just, even though we had different competing distributors and different competing companies, they all got together, and it was a lot of fun. And then the ISA International noticed how successful our event was, and they approached our committee and asked if we would like to collaborate with them on their automation summit and expo that happened last year. And they specifically scheduled that to be in Orlando, Florida last year, so that
Oh,
they could
okay.
partner with us.
Okay.
And so we worked with them, and we worked on the expo side. They worked on the summit side. We worked with their team on the expo side, but we got our vendors, our distributors. We helped lay out the event space, and brought a much larger expo to the international event. And it brought an international crowd to see our vendors. They got to meet people from around the nation as well as from around the world that they wouldn't have met otherwise. But this year we're back in Tampa. It's our local show like we had done previously. So it's been a fun ride.
We did move it. We used to do it in the fall in
Mhm.
October. This year we moved it to May. We did that partially because we're doing it at Raymond James Stadium. We wanted to stay away from football season.
Yeah.
But the other reason is 2 years ago, I think we almost had to cancel it because of a hurricane. And
Oh,
so we also wanted to get out of hurricane season too. So
yeah.
I think it'll probably stay in the spring sometime. We're not sure if it's going to stay in May, but it's going to stay in the spring just to stay away from hurricane season.
Hey guys, just want to jump in here really quick and pay the bills and remind you that you can get 20% off my Allen Bradley and Siemens PLC HMI and SCADA courses over at theautomationschool.com. It's just not the courses, it's also the bundles. So you can save hundreds of dollars off my courses during the special annual spring sale. And please check it out. Also, I have a Compact Logics course scheduled from June 9th to 11th right here in the beautiful Berkshires. It's actually beautiful up here, and it's not as hot as it is in the city. It's a lot cooler. There's a lot of hiking and fishing in the area, as well as other activities. So if you want to bring the family, they can do fun things, and you can come to school. And again, it's self-paced labs. I do presentations. I share my 36 years of experience with you, but the labs are all self-paced, so you can go as fast or slow as you want. And if you go fast like me, I got plenty of stuff. You won't run out of things to do. So with that said, you also take home a copy of the online course. That's right. So if you don't finish everything here, you get to finish online. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump back into this week's episode of the Automation Podcast. I in my former role for 25 years as a Rockwell certified distributor specialist, we did a lot of events, and it was always great to get all the customers in to our event and all the vendors in, and it was just great me seeing all the different electrical engineering and technicians and electricians, and just have all the vendors together. But you're limited in the fact that how many events can a particular engineer or technician or electrician go to a year, right? And if every supply house on the street's going to have one, I mean, yeah, there's going to be some good eating, but you're not going to get the boss to let you take a day out of work to go to everybody's event. And that's what I love about what you guys are doing by having the ISA do it. Everybody can take part in a single event. No matter if you're Rockwell, Siemens, Schneider, whoever, you all can be in the same room, and you can all support the industry, right? It's not about supporting this company or that company. It's about supporting the industry and the ISA, which is a nonprofit organization, right, for the betterment of its members. So I love what you guys are doing, and I think I really think it's, I would like to encourage more people. And look, if you don't have an ISA chapter in your town or city, you probably do. But if you do, get involved. If you don't, contact the ISA, maybe put one together. And this type of community building, it's good for our industry, right? And competition is good too. I just want to say that don't think that getting Rockwell and Siemens in the same room or in Schneider and all these other guys in the same room is bad. It's good. They all have great products, just like Toyota, Honda, Chevy, Dodge. I mean, they all have good products too, right?
Hmm.
So competition is good, and the customer at the end has to choose what works best for them. But I think these type of events, getting the whole industry in and seeing new products too. A lot of times, like I used to do, like Philip, I used to go to, I don't know, I've probably been to Rockwell 60 or 70 weeks out of my career, learning about, RS Tech Eds and automation
Hmm.
fairs and training courses. I used to love going to those and coming back. That's actually why I started the automation blog, is because I just couldn't get the information out to enough people. And so I started the blog that's even spread that out to even more people. And it's just nice to be able to do that. It's nice to be able to share information and knowledge and network with your colleagues and learn about the different companies in your area as well. It's just, so many people just think everything's made overseas. It's not, like we visit our local manufacturers. We know this on every corner. If it seems like there's a manufacturing facility. So it's good for people to know what's going on in the area. Um, any comments before we bring up the flyer again and talk about this event?
I think one that I want to make, and Phil touched on it, which I think is an important thing, is that the expo is geared for local, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
But we draw people from really all over the place. But we've tried over the years to really break down and keep down the barriers for entry.
Hmm.
So if you just want to come in for a couple hours, if that's all you can get is a couple hours, you can shoot through our expo in a couple hours and still get a lot of information. It's free for anybody to attend. And
That's
in the
awesome.
morning we have coffee and some light breakfast, and then at lunchtime you get lunch, and then in the afternoon we have a raffle. But it's geared to make it easy for people to show up, so your instrument techs can be there, and maybe your
Yeah.
programmers can be there, and
Yep.
people that don't get to fly to Dallas to go to a show because they just don't have that kind of position in their company or whatever those rules are, or the budget to do it. We try to make it easy. So because of that, we have to rely on our vendors to foot the bill for the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yep.
But because of that, it's a bit of a it's a bit of a one helps the other, right? So if it's
Absolutely.
easier to get there, then more people show up, then the vendors find more value. So we want, so now the vendors are more interested in being in the show. And I think that structure and that business model really, really works for the type of crowd we're trying to attract,
Yep.
and what the vendors are looking for. The vendors want to talk to people too. They don't want to just have a bunch of consultants or other vendors walking around. They want clients walking around that they can introduce their products to. And I think that how we've structured that has actually worked out really well.
I love that too, because a lot of plants still have a couple of, really technical people. They'll have some high-end electricians or technicians, and they can't send them all at once.
Right.
So yes, some guys can go in the morning, some guys can
Yep.
go in the afternoon, and it
Yep.
allows everybody to get there and, talk to the vendors, ask the questions they have, and but not have everybody out at the same time, which is
Yeah.
really good. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we do offer PDHs in the morning. We have four
Nice.
presentations, and if you sign up, there's a cost to that, of course, because we have to process all that paperwork. But if you need PDHs for your PE, then we can give you up to 4 PDHs for your attendance. So we do have that component of it as well.
Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
kind of adding to that, we aren't paid event planners to do this. We all have day jobs. We're already working 50 hours a week. But we're not looking at it for how much revenue can we make, how much profit can we make.
Yeah.
We're not making any revenue or profit. We use the proceeds to fund our scholarships with the local universities and the local STEM
Nice.
programs.
Yep.
It's a nonprofit organization. What we're looking for is, as a working person at our level, what would we want to see out of a show? And like you
Hmm.
said, we want to bring the technicians. And I started off as an electrician, a technician, a programmer. When I was at those levels, what would I want to see at a show? And as Mike mentioned, if I can only get 2 or 3 hours, how can I get the most bang for my buck? So we're not like a big automation show where we're trying to sell a product. we're just trying to get people together. And as you mentioned earlier, Sean, we're trying to share the knowledge that we've been able to get into the industry. We're trying to bring that to other people so they can advance their careers as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well said.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now may be a good time, Philip, to bring that flyer back up and let's take a look at it and go through it. Okay, great. And I'll just let you drive. Tell us a little bit about what we see here.
Okay, yeah. So May 21st at Raymond James Stadium. It's not, we're not out on the football field. There's a very nice club level where it's air conditioned, and it doesn't even look like a football stadium when you're inside where we're at. But we're gonna have 50 plus vendors there, distributors. There's some we're gonna have robots set up. Some we're gonna have demos set up. We're gonna have technical presentations in the morning. Those are gonna be by yourself, Sean. Thank you. Tim Wilburn from TW Controls will be there as well. Rockwell will have a presenter, and Phoenix Contact will be a presenter as well. And to cover those, Rockwell's going to be going over, I'm sorry, Phoenix Contact's going to go over enhancing critical infrastructure through surge protection. That's a very relevant topic to our Florida market because we get so much lightning in Florida that it's relevant to our local engineers. This next presentation by Ben Schreiber with Rockwell is one of the best I've ever seen. It's about variable frequency drive installation best practices. Ben is very passionate about VFDs and motors and things like that. And he really gets into how the harmonics affect things, how your grounding and your bonding paths can affect the life of your motor. You can hook any motor up to a VFD and it'll work for a while. But how does the installation, how does that affect the life cycle of your bearings and things like that? It's really good presentation. Then we have Tim Wilburn going to be talking about engineering for total life cycle cost and sustainability. So basically going over, if purchasing decides the lowest bidder wins a project, what is the total cost for that life cycle of that machine for the next 10 years going to be? Are they truly the lowest bidder? So that's going to be really relevant to our local market, not just for the purchasing side, but also for the plant maintenance people and the operations people. It gives them some numbers that they can go to purchasing and engineering with and say, look, you guys want to put this cheap equipment in. Here's what it's going to cost our team to keep this equipment running. And then yourself, you're going to be presenting. Do you want to maybe touch on what you'll be presenting on, Sean?
Yeah, so when you guys invited me, thank you, by the way, for inviting me to come down and present. I thought, what could I add? Of course, you guys know, you can see behind me, I'm training on Rockwell and Siemens PLCs and HMIs as my day job, right? That's self-employed doing that. And so, one of the things I do, though, is the automation podcast, which kind of started out as a audio version of the automation blog, but turned into, the show where this show that's kind of like a session at a trade show, right? Where I'm constantly having new vendors come on and sometimes integrators come on and talk about things like you have here. And the goal was to try to take that trade show that a lot of people don't get to go to, like the Automation Fair or equivalents, and bring it to people 1 hour at a time, once a week. And, we have, there's so many people that reach out to me. We try a lot of different new things, but the goal is to, whether it's how to use a VFD or a PLC or an HMI or SCADA system, we're trying to bring that to them once. And what I've, over the last 270 episodes, I've started to notice some real trends. And so that's what I'm going to be sharing. I'm going to be sharing the trends. And a lot of them have surprised me because, if you look at that picture of the stadium, I'm sitting in one of those seats. So I only get this one perspective, right? Mm-hmm. And by meeting with so many people who sit in so many other seats, it really opens my eyes to, what other people's view on the play is. Was it a fumble? Was it an interception? Was it a pass interference? So I'm so intrigued by what all these different vendors are working towards, what they think is going to be hot. And of course, on the History of Automation podcast, we've interviewed a lot of people, I think 12 or 13 people involved in the beginning of automation, like the guy who designed the Modicon 084. So I'm going to be trying to bring that insight in this, 30, 45 minute presentation. And I'm also want anybody who's there to share their insights because, again, I'm just sitting in one seat. There's 70,000 seats in the stadium and I just have one. So I want to know what other people's perspectives are. But, I've learned a lot through 270 interviews and I want to share the trends I'm seeing. Hey guys, I just wanted to jump in here quickly and talk a little bit more about my presentation. I'm not going to bring a camera and all kinds of equipment down there and try to record my presentation because, frankly, this is a volunteer engagement for me. So I'm taking time out of work to go down there and do this. But I am, for you members out there, whether you're a member on YouTube or the Automation blog, I am going to record a preview of this presentation, kind of like a practice edition for you guys so you can get to see the presentation if you can't make it to Tampa. So in any case, I just want to let you guys know that. And now let's go ahead and jump back into this episode of the Automation Podcast.
Yeah, it's an exciting presentation. We're really looking forward to it.
Well, thank you.
Um,
Thank you. I hope it is.
And then so we try to do a lot of fun stuff around the event as well. So we have stadium tours at
Oh,
3:30.
nice.
You can sign up and do a tour of the stadium. We do a raffle at 3 o'clock, as Mike mentioned, and these are items that are donated by the vendors that are there, as well as the section. And we use the proceeds from the raffle tickets to help the university scholarships. Um,
Nice.
the night before, we have a pre-event networking night. It's going to happen at a local brewery, Angry Chair. We already have about 120 people that have signed up for that, so it's going to be a great networking event. As Mike mentioned, food's free, food's included, uh, and the expo runs from 8 to 3 with the presentations from 8 to noon. So you can pick and choose if there's a couple presentations you want to go to, and then hop over to the expo, or if you're just there for the expo. It's really flexible. All of that's free. The only thing you have to pay for is if you're not an ISA member, the PDH credits, like Mike mentioned. But if you're an ISA member, we give those to you for free as well.
Stadium tour is $20.
Stadium tour is
Yep.
$20. And this is rain or shine because we're again, I would just want to reiterate, this is not on the field.
Okay.
We're not going to be underneath the end zone, right? The goalpost. This is in the beautiful club. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah,
Mike,
so
go ahead.
the club is that's kind of the go-to place if you have money and you go to a football game. It's as long as the entire field, and so it goes from goalpost to goalpost. That's a great picture of it in the 2024 Expo, and we actually put the tables up for the booths right inside the club, and so there's all sorts of TVs all over the place, and
Nice.
every vendor that has a booth, we have their logo and it's going to rotate on the TVs, and you can see just how packed the place is. It's just it's a unique place. Not everybody gets to go into a club of a professional football stadium and then spend the whole day in there, and it's air conditioned, which is nice. But you also get to look out on the field, and anybody who's a vendor, their logo is going to be scrolling on the TV screens in here, but we also have their logo scrolling on the Jumbotron out on the field. And so, and you'll be able to, if you're a vendor, you'll know when yours is coming up. And then you'll be able to go out there and get a picture with your company with your logo in the background on the Jumbotron. So it's kind of cool that way. It's a great event.
Yeah, there's an
Yeah, there we
example
go.
right
That's a good
there. Yep.
example.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Love the pirate ship too.
Yeah,
Tampa Bay.
it's a cool stadium. Yeah.
Yep. I was a Tampa Bay fan for a couple of years when one of my favorite players went there. So I won't say any more than that. I know people get
Yeah.
very opinionated when it comes to sports. But
Mhm.
do you mind scrolling down and showing us some of the vendors that'll be there? I know you
Yeah.
got all these great logos, and some of these people I know. And I think most of our audience knows these people too. And guys, I've shared this flyer multiple times on LinkedIn. So if you haven't seen it yet, you'll know. I think most of you guys are connected to me on LinkedIn. I have it, the link in all my shows. But you can see here all of these. I'm not going to read them, but if you're listening to the podcast, these are all of the big people, and there's a lot of local people here too. You know what I'm saying? So, but a lot of the major vendors we've already mentioned, quite a few of them. But yeah, I'm reading them as we go, and it's most of the big people you would think about.
Mhm.
And we've still got a couple of booths. If there's a vendor listening and they really want to be involved, there's a QR code there. You could reach out to us and we could send you the link for it. And attendee registration is still open. We really don't ever cut that off. We highly recommend that you register ahead of time, just so that we have your information and then we can make you a name badge. You can walk up and register on the day of, but the name tag is a little bit different, and it makes it a little bit harder for us to count who's going to be there, so we have enough lunches. So register ahead of time. It makes it easier for everybody, and then the line's a lot faster when you get there. You just kind of walk up, get your badge, and walk in. You don't have to register.
Yeah, definitely recommend that registering
Yeah.
beforehand if you can. I mean, if you're going to be in the greater Tampa area, it's what, 2 hours from Orlando.
About that.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So if you're in the greater area, I would definitely say stop by. Like they said, it's being sponsored by the ISA. They're holding it. They've organized it. The vendors they've invited are kind of offsetting all of the costs, so you can come in for free, meet
Yep.
with all these different vendors, get some PDHs if you're into that, if you need them, or if you're interested in maybe hearing about what I learned from 270 interviews. But in any case, would love to have you guys come. And I personally just want to say, if you're there and you watch the show, if you watch the automation podcast or read the automation blog or go to the automation school, I want you to please come up and say hi to me. I love meeting people who, I'm sitting behind this camera. I just met Mike and Philip, and it was just great talking to them in the pre-show. And so I just want to say, please come up and talk to us, right? I know I, for one, want to meet as many people as I can who listen to the show. So please, this is an open invitation. But as a podcast host, I'd love to meet some more of the audience out there. But in any case, guys, anything else we should cover before we end this episode?
It's a great show. If you get an opportunity to come out, I think you'll have a good time. I think you'll meet some people you already know. You'll meet some new people. You get to see some great technology, learn about the business, and it supports a really good cause. We've got 3 college scholarships that we support now. We've also got a couple of high school student teams that are coming out with some robotics, which is kind of cool. So we're trying to spread that knowledge, get younger people interested and get them into this really cool industry, and just hope to see you there.
Yeah, so this is from 2024. We had Fund Education as a local STEM program, and they had some students come, and this isn't the best picture of what they had set up, but they had a little setup going on. And then as Mike mentioned, we have some other organizations as well that'll be there. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Any final words, Philip?
Nope. Hope to see everybody there. It's a fun, we call it a big automation party. It's a great group of people that are just, similar to us. They're interested in this type of stuff. They nerd out on learning new technologies and seeing what's going on in the industry. So it's a good time.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, Mike and Philip, it was great to meet you today. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the 21st down in Tampa. And I want to thank you both for coming on the show.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you,
Really
Sean.
appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. I want to thank Mike and Phil for coming on the show to tell us all about the expo that's coming up down there in Tampa, Florida. I also want to thank everybody who is planning on attending my session. When you sign up for one of these things, you volunteer to give a presentation. You're kind of like, am I going to travel that way? And nobody's going to show up. So hopefully some of you folks will make it there. And don't forget, members, I'm going to do a version of that for you before I leave. So just an appreciation of you being a member and supporting me either on YouTube or theautomationblog.com. I also want to just let all my students know I'm working on new lessons every day for the Allen Bradley PLC courses, the 2026 courses. I got some really big ones I'm filming in the next couple of days. And these are going to be much expanded over my previous courses. And don't forget, if you're enrolled in one of the original courses, you get the new course for free. And if you buy one of the original courses, you get the new course for free. So they're in early access now. And with that, I think that's it. I just want to wish you all good health and happiness. And until next time, my friends, peace.